Dennis Lares, and I am here to do a brief presentation on the basic controls for the TI30XS. This video is focused for GED students who want to pass the GED math test. The first slide we have here is just a comparison between the two calculators that are out there named TI30XS. But beware that the one to the right side, the darker blue one, is not the calculator that's allowed in the GED test. The one to the left, the teal color, is the only one that will be allowed inside of the testing center. Take note that the title on that says multi-view at the bottom, and it is also larger than the blue one to the right side. Once again, you're not going to be able to use this calculator here. You can only use the one to the left, which is the TI30XS multi-view. We're going to go ahead and begin to just focus here on the screen that displays all of the numbers and operations that you are expressing on the calculator. This is where you'll keep track of your operations and answers, and this is also the place where you will see if the second key is activated in your calculator. That means that in here, give me a second here, let me go ahead and zoom real quick, not on my face, but actually on this side here. When you guys take a look at your calculator, and you'll see that on the top right side here, you're gonna get some little short 3-letter words, and we're gonna be talking about those. But this is the place right here where you'll see if scientific mode is activated or not. Once again, this is just your display screen, and it's there to help you navigate with the controls or all of the computations that you're putting into the calculator. We're going to focus on the second, or the shift. There's also the second function. This button is probably one of the most important ones in the calculator because it gives you access to all of the keys that have green functions on them. So if you take a look at the calculator, the whole calculator has your... Oh, careful, I'm trying to get past this thing here. Give me a second. So all of the calculator, as you can see, has a main key, which most of the functions are in white. But right above it, you see that it has these green functions. So we're going to be utilizing the second, or the shift button, that green one there, to help us activate all of those functions you see above the main key. So it's important for us to note that I actually went too far. There is a second button there. So that button right there, once you press it, what it'll do, and this is what I want you to take a look at. I have my calculator to the right side here, and we're going to be utilizing that calculator to do some examples here. So what I was speaking to you about is when you press that second button, notice that on the top right, you're going to pop up now the 2ND, which tells you that that is activated. Now, that means that all of these buttons in green are now going to be accessible to you at this point. Now, I am doing this tutorial using this TI30XS multi-view. I know that this is a different color. This is for copyright reasons. They don't have a digital copy that looks exactly like this one. But I want to make sure you guys know that all of the buttons, check out the second button, the cursors, everything that you have on the TI30XS multi-view is identical to what's on the digital format here. So as I do this tutorial, where I point towards the keys is going to be the same location for the calculator that you have. So again, the second button is useful to activate all of those second functions. Let's go ahead and move on to the next slide here. We have the number keys. Obviously, these are the keys you're going to utilize to go ahead and input your operations and use the numbers for them. You have your decimal point. Notice that the main key here is the decimal point, but the second key has a comma right above it, and that comma is utilized to insert commas into numbers. We're not really using that in the GED, but the decimal point for sure will be utilized. That decimal point is utilized when you want to put a decimal. So for example, if I have 100.2, I can just put 100, put my decimal, and then put my 2 in there, and now I have a decimal format. The next one is going to be the negative sign, which is found on the bottom right of the calculator next to the enter button. This is different than the minus sign. So check out, for example, on this side here, we have the minus sign that's next to the left, actually to the left of the enter button. That's the button that you're going to like to put negative numbers. So if I wanted to put -8, for example, I will first click on that negative and then write the 8 into the calculator. So again, you will press the negative and then 8. don't confuse that right there with the minus sign, as those are different. This is an operation. This is a negative sign. It's two different things. So again, let's take a notice that on the A key on top in green, you have an A and S. And that key is actually the answer key. And this activates, when you activate this, is to recall the answer from the last operation. So for example, if I did 33 plus 2 is 35. But now, I wanted to maybe add that 35 to something else. So I don't know, it could be that you had a very long number and you didn't want to rewrite it. Obviously, 35 is an easy number to write in, but say it was a long number that you just maybe didn't have the memorization time right now. So what you would do is hit the shift button or the second button and then hit that key for the negative. Notice that now I have answer, and I'm going to add 2 to that, which if you notice, the last answer was 35. I'm going to add 2 to that, so I should get 37 once I do that. And there it is. So again, that answer or the answer key, when activated, what it does is that it recalls the last answer that you computed, and now you can go ahead and add to that or change, not really change, but add, subtract, or do any operation on top of that answer. The next slide we have here is the on button, which you're gonna find on the bottom left of the calculator. The main key is the on, that obviously just turns on the calculator. These are actually solar power calculator, which means that if you haven't used it in a while, it's important that you put it, expose it to light, because then it'll reset it or actually turn on for you. There might be a thing where you press the on button and it might not turn on. So what you want to go ahead and do is expose it to some sun or light, and that should get it going for you. And now if you notice on top of that, you have the off. So the second key has the off function, and this, when activated, this is to turn off your calculator. But I also want you to know that if you leave it unattended for a while, it'll automatically shut down on its own as well. The next button here is the mode. And this is the button where you're gonna calibrate your calculator to do the things that you wanted to do. Let's recognize that the main key is the mode, and then the shift key or the second key is quit. So let's talk about the mode. The mode is a button that when pressed, what it does is it gives you this listing of choices that you can have. The first line has DEG, RAD, and GRAD. For you and the GED testers, DEG and RAD are totally fine. Any of those that you've selected is fine. Also, NORM, SCI, and English, ENG. Those are choices. To do any normal computation, you want to keep it on norm. Float has to do with the decimal spaces. How many decimal points do you want to have when you answer? And then you have classic and math print. You want to go ahead and leave it on math print for this one, as we don't use classic for the GED. So one thing to notice is that I'm going to go back to the second line here. Notice that I have norm highlighted in black. That means that that's going to be the setting that I'm on right now. But if I wanted to change it, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and go use my cursor here, go towards the bottom, and then hit the right cursor. And now I'm highlighting SCI and it's blinking. I'm going to go ahead and hit the enter button there. And what it does, notice that right away on top, I am now activated the scientific notation mode, which means that now my answers, all of my answers will come out in scientific notation. Check this out. If I do 2 times 2, you guys know that's 4. But because the sci mode is activated, I now have answers in scientific mode. This can be something that can stress students out if they don't go back and forth between, or if they don't know how to go back and forth using the mode. So again, I'm going to go back into my mode here, and I do not want those answers in scientific mode. So I'm going to head down to the norm where it's highlighted now in blinking, and I'm going to hit the enter for that, and notice that that now highlights norm for me. I get back out there, I clear, and I have that last answer. I'm going to hit enter to go ahead and recall that, or again, second answer, right? Recall the answer and then hit enter. And there it is. Now I have it in normal format, no longer in scientific notation mode. So again, that's what that key is for. And if you notice, another thing here is ENG is not going to be used for the GED. Norm and scientific notation will be used for the GED. For the decimals, you don't have to worry about those. But if you wanted to play with them, you're more than welcome to do so. All it really means is that, for example, if I have, let me show you how that works. If I had 113.256 plus 25.369, say that was an addition. Oh, actually, hang on here. Let me delete a little bit. 25 point. I pressed the wrong button. 698. The answer is going to be 138.94. But say I wanted this rounded to the nearest tenth. So I'm going to go into my mode and then click down or use my cursor and go towards the bottom. And then I'm going to tell it to give me no decimal points, 0 decimal points. Hit enter on that. Now I'm on that float there at 0 decimal points. Notice that fix comes up on top. I cleared that. I'm going to recall that answer. So I'm going to go second, get that answer back and hit enter. And now notice that the calculator itself is rounding my answers to the nearest whole number. Now I can utilize this mode to be able to do any decimal point. So that was just whole number. I didn't want any decimal points, but say you wanted the 10th place. I'm gonna hit that 1 there, hit enter. And now the calculator should give me, I'm gonna go ahead and get that answer again, that decimal point there. So 139.0 will be for that one. If you had the original answer of 138.94, which is that answer that we had originally here, because remember the recall only recalls the last answer, so it had moved down from that one. So let's go ahead and do that one and hit enter on it, and notice, oh, it does gives us 139.0 because it rounds up to 10 here, so it goes up. So again, the mode helps us put the calculator or calibrate it towards where we need it. We're gonna have it in DEG and RAD. The norm and scientific modes are gonna be utilized depending on what you're doing. The float here is gonna be used for the decimal places that you wanna use, but I suggest just, knowing the places so you don't have to go back and forth with this. And you actually might end up doing something wrong where you forget to change that, and then you might get that as an option in a GED, and you might mark that wrong answer because of it. So be careful with that. And then math print is the effective one for us there. So that's what the mode is for. As you can see, you also have quit. When you do the second there and you hit the quit button there, notice that everything comes out from the calculator. I pretty much quit what I was doing, and the calculator takes that as a message that it takes everything off. So that's the mode and quit button. The next button here is going to be the cursor. I've been using it already, so you guys saw me use that, and that pretty much just gives you access to go up and down in the calculator. It's also important for you to know that we're going to be talking about the delete button. So when we delete things, it's going to actually function as a backspace on a keyboard. But these cursors help us go left, right, up, and down depending on how much or what kind of data we're inputting into the calculator. All right, let's go ahead and go to the next one. Actually, this side has to be updated. I'm talking about the last one here. So the cursor again is just there to give you access to move stuff around. The plus sign, you guys know that's the addition sign. So you use that to be able to add anything. So for example, 36 plus, right? That's that sign. 4 will be 40. But also on top, you have the dimmer. The dimmer button actually doesn't come out in this calculator because this is a digital one. But in your calculator, if you press the second key and you press the plus sign, and in fact, if you guys can do it right now, you will see that your display will become brighter. If it's not becoming brighter, that's because it's probably at its brightest. So that's where the minus sign is going to come in. If you do the second button and then you press minus, that's going to activate the dimmer on this calculator. You see the screen dimming. That's something that's not highly used, but at least you know what it is. And again, the minus sign is different than what we talked about. The minus sign is different than the negative sign. This is to put in negatives. This is to do the operation of a subtraction. So like 6 minus 9 will be equal to -3. Let's see what happens when I do 6 minus 9 here. Notice that the calculator gives me an error because that is not a minus sign. Next slide here is going to be the times. Obviously, this is the multiplication key, and it's used when computing multiplication expressions or finding products. The division sign, obviously, this is a button that we use to do our division. This is when we're looking for a quotient. That's the answer to a division. That's that sign or that button or key that we utilize. The K key is called the constant key, and we will not be using that in the GED test. The delete button I was telling you about earlier on is really important. Say, for example, I was putting an expression here of 6 plus 5 times 6, I don't know, let's say divided by 8, right? And I messed up here and I put the wrong sign on the multiplication. So what's going to end up happening here is I'm going to use my cursors to move over to the left and highlight over that multiplication sign, and I'm gonna delete it. You see that? By deleting it, now I'm able to press plus, but notice that now I've erased everything that's there. So that's why the insert, or the second, when you press the second key and press on delete, you're gonna activate insert. Insert is gonna be a little different. Let me show you. So we have 6 plus 8 times 9 divided by 2. I'm gonna head back over here. And what I'm gonna do is press the second, and instead of hitting delete first, I'm press the second and then hit insert. And then what happens now is I can now insert a different thing there. And notice that I don't lose the last thing that I had there. By only doing delete, I automatically lose it, and I'm not able to put anything else in there. So the insert and delete buttons are very effective. You can use them as a backspace. Say I was here and I wanted to delete that too. I just hit delete, right? I can delete everything, for example. But the insert button is more effective when you want to go in there and maybe change something. So you do, you know what, I don't like that. I messed up and pressed multiplication. I'm going to go second, and then, oh, it's up here, and insert, and I'm going to press, that's a plus instead of multiplication. And I want to get rid of that delete sign. And then there it is. Hit enter, and you should get your answer. That's what those guys are for. Next here, we're going to have the percent and also the open parentheses sign. This is going to be the key that helps you input parentheses into your calculator. So check it out. When I press that button, I automatically open up a parentheses. You can put your expression in there, close it, right? That's going to be the next one we talk about there. So that's the way to close it. You open it and then you close it when the one right next to that. So all you're really doing is copying these expressions for wherever you have them, your GED tests or your book, and you'll be able to use parentheses to input those as well too. On top of that, you have the percent sign. Now the second key, when activated, will actually allow for you to insert a percent. So say, for example, I wanted to have 14%. I will write down my 14. I will press the second button and then press not the one, not the close parenthesis sign, but the open parentheses, because that's the one that inserts the percentage. So say you were looking for 14% of 125. Now the operation is here. 14, the percent sign, multiplication times 125. Hit enter and we end up with 17.5. But again, we were able to insert that percent sign using the second button and then the open parentheses. So again, if I wanted to do 14, again, there it is, second and open parentheses. Now it's very important that you make the difference between these two. We have the open parentheses and we have the close parentheses. We saw earlier on that we can do any operation and open the parentheses, like for example, 8 plus 6, but now I need to close it. I will use the key to the right of that, and that will close it. So that's not too bad, and not too, you can't forget that easily. But the one to the top of that, the arrow to percent, it's going to be something that you will learn. Now, whenever you see arrows, it's pretty much the calculator is telling you that it's going to change to that thing. So here, for example, we have an arrow saying you're going to change that to percent. That is different than the open parentheses where you insert the percent. The arrow to percent means that you're going to change whatever quantity you have into a percentage. So say, for example, I had 32. If I do second and open parentheses, that just inputs the percent, but that's not what I want. I want to change that into a percentage. So I'm going to go second, and I'm going to use that arrow to percent sign, and I'm going to hit enter on that, and there it is. It's 3,200% when you have just a whole number 32. Say, for example, I had 0.50, and I wanted to change 0.50 into a percent. I would activate the second key. I will press that open parentheses, and then I'll hit enter, and there it is. 50% is what it gives me. So that's the close parentheses key. Next here, we have the clear button. The clear button is going to be where you clear your whole screen. But be careful here. Check it out. I'm going to press it once here, and there it is. It's just pretty much clear. So be careful that you're not clearing something that you would probably need it. So you have to be wise with that button. Next, we have the enter. This is pretty much the button I've been using. Whenever you want to compute anything, you input it. Like, for example, 23 times 5. And to get the answer, you hit enter. Oh, I love this button right here. I love it, love it, love it. The reason why I love that button so much is because it helps us with our our computations and going back and forth between decimals and fractions. So say for example, I had 0.22 and I wanted that in fraction format. If I press the arrow to arrow button here, I call it the magic key button, and I hit enter, notice that I automatically get it in fraction format, in the simplest form of the fraction format. And if I hit it again, I'm back to decimal format. So that's why I love that button, because it's instantaneous. You get an answer right away. Magic key. Obviously the 0 button and then the reset key. I'm gonna go ahead and show you what that looks like right now. I'm gonna hit second and then reset. Oh, I hit one, sorry. Second and then reset. And it asks me, do I want to reset yes or no? I'm gonna say yes. And basically when I do that, it clears everything that I've been computing in my calculator. That's what that button is for. Next here we have the pi. As you guys know, pi is 3.14. I'm gonna ask you guys to not use the button during the GED because it's too exact. You wanna go ahead and use the rounded format, which is 3.14. So instead of pressing that button, go ahead and use 3.14 during the GED test. The fraction key, and in this fraction key, the main key is a regular fraction. It could be a proper fraction or an improper fraction. But notice that when I press that key here on my calculator, the N over D, I automatically get a fraction format. With that fraction format, it allows for me to input any kind of fraction. I'm gonna go ahead and input 7/8. There it is. I do 7 on the top. I input that 7. I use my arrows to go to the bottom, and I input that 8 there. That's one way of inputting a proper fraction. Or maybe you're gonna add this fraction to another fraction. So you input your first one, and let's say we're adding another fraction here. So we'll do plus. Open up again your N over D format or your fraction format and input the second fraction. At this point, for example, I get 11 over 8. Don't forget that you also have the arrow to arrow key. So if you ever come a place like this where you wanted the answer in decimal format, all you gotta do is hit that arrow to arrow and check it out. I automatically get that decimal. So I can go back and forth and get fraction format or decimal format for that. Now, that is the proper or improper fraction key. Now check out the top one though. That's gonna be your mixed number format. And in order to get that access to that one, we're gonna go ahead and hit the shift button or the second button and hit the same key, right? Because we're activating the green functions there. So when I did that, I actually got the mixed number format there, so I can input any mixed number. For example, I have 2 and 1/3. There it is. And now I don't have to be changing anything around. I can input it just the way that it's there. And if I need to add that mixed number format to maybe another fraction or maybe even a decimal, right? Maybe I can go ahead and maybe subtract the decimal here. You can do anything at this point that you want because you are able to input mixed numbers. You're able to put regular fraction formats, and then you're also able to put decimals. Check that out. I did all those 3 and I got this answer, a very long answer of 3.2 and so forth. But again, you can always go back and forth and get the fraction format as well too. So this key is your fraction key. The UN over D is your mixed number format key, and you need those keys to be able to input fractions and mixed numbers into your expressions. The next key for us here is going to be something similar, but the main key has the scientific notation. And what that means is that in scientific notation, you usually input a number, and then the tail end of it has always this format where you say times 10 to a power. So by pressing that key, I can input the number from the scientific notation, and automatically it'll give me that format of times 10, and it leave me that exponent free for me to input. So I can put any number there. I can put a negative number there as well too. That's gonna happen as well too. But there it is. That's my scientific mode. So the way to do it again is you input your first number, and then you use that key there, that times 10 to the end, to input the rest of the scientific mode. Put your exponent and you're good to go. You can then do all kinds of things with this, right? Like maybe you want to add some stuff, or maybe you want to multiply it to something else. It doesn't matter. Once you have that format in there, then we're set to go. Now, the interesting key here is going to be that green function. Notice that we have a fraction and an arrow to an arrow, which is similar to the arrow to arrow right here. And it does function the same way, except here it's telling you that it's going to go from a fraction to a mixed number format and vice versa. So it's the same concept as the magic key, except this is a magic key that specifically 4 fractions. For example, if I had 9, and maybe this time the number at the bottom, let's use 5 there, 9/5, right? And I wanted to take that 9/5. That's different than this one because notice that that number on the top is larger than the one on the bottom. Here, the number on the top was smaller than the one on the bottom. So when you have proper fractions, you cannot change them to mixed number. But an improper fraction, let's see what happens when we do that. There's the command. I'm telling it to change it to a mixed number, and bam, there it is. 1 4/5. I'm able to get my mixed number format from the improper fraction by telling it to go ahead and do so using that key. More specifically, the shift key is the one that allows me to do that. The next key we have here is the square key and the square root key. The main key, the square, just allows you to put a square to anything. So for example, if I had 6, all I gotta put is that square key and it automatically squares it for me. And this could be anything. It could be like 25 and then square. Hit enter, you get that answer. It could be, you guys know that 3 square, for example, is 9, right? So there it is. I press that key, 3 square, hit enter, I get 9. So the square key allows me to raise it to the second power, but only to that specific power. Now the root key allows me to put any square root into this. So I'm gonna go ahead and activate it by pressing second, then picking that square root. And I'm gonna pick 16 here as my expression. So the square root of 16, I hit enter, and there it is 4. So by doing second, pressing the X square key, I activate the square root. I can input any number into that and get an answer. The square root of 64 is 8. But the main thing for you here is to know how to activate that square root. And don't forget, this key is the square. It only does to the second power, and this is only a square root. Let's talk about something. What if you have something that's a little different? For example, what if you have a third power or a fourth power? So this up arrow key, what it does, it allows us to raise a number to any power. So for example, if I have 2 and I raise that to the third power, that means 2 times 2 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. This should give me 8. 2 to the third power is 8. But again, how did I do that? I press 2. I press the up arrow key, which allows me now to input any number that I want here. I press my 3. I hit enter, and I get my 8 from that point. Now, the tricky one here is going to be the root of any other number. Remember earlier on we had the square root. This one is the X root. The X just means that you can input any number. But here's a trick to this. If you wanted to do a cube root, you first have to input 3 into the calculator, and then you activate the function second, and you activate that key from the up arrow for the X square root. Now I have a cube root, and I can input any number in here, for example 27, and my answer is going to come out. In that case, that's going to be 3. Here's another one. For example, if I wanted to do the cube root, remember you press 3, you activate that key here with the second button, there it is, and let's go ahead and hit 8 on that one, and my answer is 2 for that one. So for any root, you can utilize that X root, and for any power, you can use the up arrow for that there. All right, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and stop here. I want you guys to go ahead and pause this video and try this. And once you're done, you can come back here to this video and check out your answers. All right, now that you guys are done, let's go ahead and check this out. I'm gonna go ahead and do A, B, C, D, E, and F here. I wanna go ahead and input 6 over 2. So let's go ahead and do N over D, right? This is a fraction, so I'll use the fraction key, and I'll do 6 over 2. So I did 6 on top, down arrow, hit the 2 on the bottom, hit enter, and there it is. I get 3 as a simplified expression over 6 over 2. What if I needed to input a mixed number? In that case, what I'm gonna do is activate my mixed number format, is this key right here, and then input my 2 and 4 12s. And let me hit enter on that and check it out. I actually end up with with an improper fraction. What if I want it in mixed number format? So what I'm gonna do is take this 7/3 and I'm gonna do second, and I'm gonna tell the calculator to change that into a mixed number format. Hit enter on that again, and I get 2 1/3. Notice that 2 1/3 is coming out as an answer for 2 and 4 12s because the 4 12s has been simplified. The calculator will always give you the most simplified answers. The next one here is 3 to the 4th power. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is just input the 3, and I'm gonna use the up arrow key here to input 4, because remember the other key is only a square, and the answer for that is 81. 10%. Oh, we haven't talked about percent. Oh, we did talk about percent actually. The way to do that is you hit that 10, and then you make sure you tell it to input, not to change it, but to input it. So you do 10, hit that open parentheses where the percent is at. I activated it with the second, and there it is, 10%. Now I have parentheses, so I'm gonna go ahead and open up my parentheses. By the way, 10% give it to me as a decimal format. That's okay. It's just an expression that's equivalent to 10%. For the next one, I'm gonna go ahead and open up the parentheses. I'm gonna use my negative sign here at the bottom, input my 3, close the parentheses, and then they want me to square it. So I'm gonna use this key to just automatically square it, hit my answer or the enter button, and I get 9 for that. And last but not least, here I got the square root of 64. I'm gonna go ahead and activate my square root. This is not this one here with the X, is the square root. So there it is, and then hit that 64, and you guys that know about square roots know that's gonna be 8 for an answer. For number 1, we actually have an expression where we're doing different operations. So let's go ahead and get that one done. So I'm gonna first input the 3 halves. So I'll open up my fraction. This is gonna be 3, go to the bottom, 2, go towards the right. Now I have a times, so I hit times, and then I have 0.22, so 0.22, and it's being raised to the 3rd power, so I'm gonna use the up arrow for that one, and I hit 3. And I have a plus 2 1/5, so actually look at this cursor, by the way. The cursor is right next to the 3. If I start typing right here, it'll keep typing on the exponent. I don't wanna do that. So remember, we can use the delete button to get rid of anything else we wrote, but you gotta tell the calculator to move it to the right. Bam, notice now the cursor dropped. Now I'm able to write the next part of my expression. This is gonna be plus. I need a mixed number format, so I need to tell the calculator to input a mixed number. I do that by doing the second or shift button and pressing this key right here. Now I have a mixed number format available. I press 2, I go to the right, I press 1, I go to the bottom, I hit 5 to input that. And then I move to the right so I can make sure that I write in the right place. I'm inputting into the right place. And that's a minus right there. And now it's the square root of 9. So I do second for that one to activate square root. This is square root and not the other one that's any other root. And that's 9. Hit enter, and my answer is negative 0.784028 for this answer right here. Let's move on to number 2. This one's gonna be the cube root of 64 plus 0.2 to the 2nd power. So to activate a cube root, remember we first have to put the 3 and then tell the calculator to do the root. So I'm gonna do second, but it's this one and not the X square key, is the up arrow key for that cube root after writing that 3 in first. Now you input the 64. It's followed up with a plus, so I'm gonna move to the right to get away from that root, plus, and then 0.2 to the 2nd power, so I can automatically use this one for that 2nd power. Hit enter, and I get 4.04 for that answer. The next one is multiplying 3.24 times 234. Sorry. So see how I made a mistake here? I'm gonna go ahead and insert here. So I'm gonna go second, and then insert into that space because I want to put a 3. Did I do it wrong? Oh yes, I did it wrong because I put it right in front of it. So let's delete that. So I want to insert 234 here. So I want to insert it right there. I'm gonna go second, insert, hit that 2. There it is, 3.24. Move over to the right, and now we have 11.25 for the rest of the expression. Hit enter, and our answer is going to be 36.3825. The 4th problem is asking us what is the product of 5 squared plus 9 cubed. Well, those are key words that we need to know for the GED. 5 squared means 5 to the 2nd power, and they want us to know the product. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to multiply it times 9 cubed. So that means 9 to the 3rd power. So I have to use the up arrow to hit that 3rd power. So what's 5 squared times 9 to the 3rd power? That is going to be 18,225. Now, don't forget that you can always use your parentheses to do this. So for example, if I have parentheses 5 squared, close parentheses, open up parentheses, and then do 9 cubed, this also means multiplication, okay? And it should give you the same thing. Number 5 says 5 to the 4th power. I'm gonna go ahead and input my 5, up arrow, hit that 4, hit enter, I get 625. Last, number 6 here is asking me for a negative 32, so I'm gonna use my negative sign at the bottom. Negative 32, I'm gonna add 0.2 to the 2nd power, and voila, I get an answer of negative 31.96. All right, guys, we're gonna be doing some practice with the calculator here. This is pretty much the introduction to that, but as you can see, there's lots that we can do with this tool. And in the GED, you're gonna have 39 problems in which you're gonna be able to utilize this tool. So you wanna be as knowledgeable and you wanna know as many keys as you can from here so that you're comfortable using this during the test. Once again, thank you for being here today, and I hope you guys got some good stuff out of this video, and we'll see you on the next lesson. Talk to you later.